Hello everyone, this is a raw analysis of the first half of Lexington Sporting Club's first USL League One win versus South Georgia Tormenta FC. Tormenta FC lined up in a 4-3-3, whereas Lexington Sporting Club lined up in a 4-4-2. The clash between Lexington's 2-center mid system versus Tormenta's 3-center mid system was on full display in the first half.
We're only 30 seconds in, but you can already see the difference between number 18 here for Lexington compared to number 14 from the last game. 18 is much more active in the press, recognizing the opportunity to trap Tormenta when they play the wingback to winger ball and pressing the pass back. Also, this is something that you're going to hear me say a lot, but a lot of the times, especially at this level or the high school level, I really do not like the static passes up the byline from wingbacks to wingers, especially if your winger is situated like he is here with his back to the touchline. The reason is that when the winger gets the ball, they often don't have any options, and they'll almost always lose the ball. Sometimes if the defense is still shifting over, or if you have a star winger who can reliably beat a fullback on his back, then it can be fine. But if you look at this play as an example, as the ball gets played to the winger, the fullback is on his back, preventing a turn, the Lexington winger is preventing the dribble into the middle of the field here, the Lexington center mid is preventing this pass to the pivots, and his only option is to one-touch it back to the wingback. So Tormenta's a little lucky that Lexington's forward is maybe a step late in getting to that pass, but however, you can see they almost lost the ball there. If you want to look at Lexington in this play, honestly, their forward could have taken a little bit of a step forward towards the wingback. He didn't need to be so far back in covering the pivot because that's already under control. And so he could kind of cheat towards that ball, knowing that that's probably the only ball that can be played here. So managers like Pep Guardiola and Mikel Arteta have talked in the past about how they dislike these types of passes. And at this level particularly, I think that teams like Lexington who want to press a little higher can take advantage of times when teams play these types of passes to press and win the ball in more advanced areas. There will be more examples of these types of passes, but I think that they generally put you in very dangerous positions for minimal positional gain. Another example, here is not a fullback to a winger, but a center back to a fullback, but the concept is still the same. The center back is holding the ball, looking up for ages, allowing the defense to get set. Then, when he finally gets the pass off to the wingback is immediately under pressure. He gets directly pressed here. His center mid, 32, is surrounded by white shirts, and then his other center mid, number 22, is in the cover shadow of the Tormenta defender. And if this Tormenta defender just cuts off that pass back to the center back, then the Lexington fullback will actually have nowhere to go and will most certainly lose the ball. Even though he is able to get this pass back off, Tormenta is able to press that pass back in the back line, forcing Lexington's goalkeeper to kick it out and allowing Tormenta to regain possession of the ball. Here, honestly, Lexington's only option is a one-touch pass to 32 in the middle, and then maybe a layoff to 22 running off, and then maybe a switch out here. But that's honestly quite far off from the technical abilities at this level. I genuinely think that teams at this level should see these types of passes as triggers for a press. It's a great opportunity to win the ball in a really advanced position, and you can quickly start attacking the opponent's backline. So these are the dangers of playing a 2-center mid system versus a 3-center mid system. While Lexington was rather unlucky here not to win the ball, if you're going to commit both of your center mids to guard their two pivots, you basically cannot let them get through. Because if you do, then they'll be up a man here in the attack, as you see here with Fonseca. And just to kind of nitpick, Lexington's number 8 could be a little step closer and a little step quicker to stepping to Tormenta's number 5. I guess if you're worried about number 22 getting beaten as he steps, sure, you can be off a little bit, although with this angle, you're probably not going to get to that man anyways here. But as the ball is played to Tormenta's number 6, you know that his only real option is this pass to number 5, so you can kind of cheat a little bit that way and beat the pass to him. These are the little things that can greatly impact a game, as winning the ball here would lead to a dangerous attack and would have prevented this Tormenta attack as well.
So tactically, one of the things that Lexington likes to do is pushing their wingbacks forward and committing men to the wide attacking areas. In their previous game against Forward Madison, they struggled to take advantage of these overloads on the wings that they were creating. Here, Lexington already is doing a better job of finding these areas where they have the numbers advantages. You can see here that Lexington's center back is first positioned very wide, forcing a commitment from the Tormenta winger here. As the ball's in the air, you can see that because the Tormenta winger is pressed up so high, the Tormenta wingback also steps up to cover this pass up to the Lexington wingback. However, the center back makes the right decision and skips the pass to the wingback and instead plays the ball all the way up to the winger here. This leaves Lexington's winger and forward basically in a 2v1 situation against the Tormenta center back, and Lexington was able to find the ball into that space. Now, Lexington has a numbers advantage. The next part is taking advantage of the situation in these advanced positions. You want there to be more players forward to provide more options. However, Lexington here doesn't really have anyone forward with the ball. So, number 2 makes the right decision to slow the play down and recycle the ball. I see a lot of young players, when they're in these types of situations, still try to sprint forward and get a cross in, even though no one's in the box. You'll hear me say this a lot, but soccer is a lot like chess. Not only do you need to know how to attack, you also need to know when to attack. As a winger, you can't just put your head down and dribble and try to put a cross in every time you're in the attacking third with the ball. You need to get your head up and see if you have options, see where your teammates are at, how the opponent is shaped, and make your decision based off of that. Here, Robertson for Lexington does a good job of recognizing that, hey, his only advanced player is the forward here, who's surrounded by Madison defenders. Getting the ball to him will be hard, and then for him to be able to control it and turn and get a shot off will be even harder. He understands that by trying to force this ball, he has a very low likelihood of success and makes the right decision, which ultimately leads to a better opportunity than he would have had just trying to sprint down the line.
Lexington, being a man down in the middle, really cannot allow opponents to be making these types of passes into the pivots. The youth here needs to be a step further inside to prevent that passing lane from being open. But if the ball is played, Lexington should be winning the ball here, as they have a 4-man box around the 2 Tormenta pivots. If you're going to mark these pivots, all of these players need to be tighter to their men, or the passing lanes need to be cut out. However, the Tormenta pivots do well in skirting out of this dangerous situation. So if you're a team that's a man up in the midfield, how do you take advantage of that? This is a great example here. If you're a young player and you want to play center mid or center attacking mid, watch number 8 for Tormenta. Lexington center mids are pressed up high on the pivots, which allows number 8 for Tormenta to have a lot of space to work here between the lines. So the back line, which is off the screen, and also this midfield line here. For cams, this is where you want to be, because you're too far forwards that the center backs don't feel comfortable stepping up to you, and you're behind the center mids and they can't see or mark you. So as the ball is swung around the Tormenta back line and the far side center back gets the ball, you see number 8 here is sitting in that passing lane between Lexington's center mid here, and Lexington's winger here. This forces Lexington's winger, number 77, to have to make a decision. You can stay on your assignment out wide and cut that passing lane off. However, that opens up this central passing lane here because his center mid is still recovering into that space. Or you can cut this passing lane off first and give up that pass out wide. Generally, you want to prevent the central penetrating pass and give up the wide areas if you have to. So he helps the center mids and allows that pass to go out wide. The Tormenta center back does a good job of skipping the wing back and playing directly to the winger, who's then able to play this really impressive one-touch pass to number 8 and wins them the foul in an advanced position. Even though number 8 didn't do much on the ball on this build-up, his positioning is key and is what opens up the Lexington defense and allows Tormenta to beat that initial press. On the other hand, if you're Lexington, how do you defend this? Well, the key to defense is space. Jose Mourinho, in his brief stint in punditry, has talked before about the difference between defensive tactics and universal defensive principles. Tactics are the general overarching defensive strategy, while the principles are often the underlying ideas and universal basic concepts of defending, and each can kind of inform the other. So one of Mourinho's most fundamental defensive principles is compactness. He says that space in defense is critical and that every successful defense needs to be compact or else you'll get picked apart. If you look at Lexington here, there is way too much space between the back line and the center mids. This is space that Tormenta's cam is able to exploit. While Lexington's front 6 is pressing like a mid to high block, the back 4 is sat back a few yards too deep, leaving a huge gap in the middle here. I'm not sure why Lexington defenders are so far back. It might be evidence that they're worried about Tormenta's speed up top or possibly their own lack of speed in the back. Lexington's wingbacks are actually kind of quick, so they might be worried about the center backs. However, cohesion and working together as a unit is critical for successful defense. If you want to be a mid to high block team, pressing the opponent's back line, your own back line will also have to step up and close that space left in behind. If you're really worried about being that high up and getting caught with speed, then you'll have to drop your whole team back on defense, and you can't press that high up off the field. All 10 field players must be working together in a unit on defense, and having such disconnects like this will almost always cause you problems.
wasting the pressing efforts of your own forward players.
I also want to highlight some of the good things that Lexington did. This is a really nice build-up from Lexington. It starts with a very well done from number 22, reading the body position of number 19 from Tormenta and turning into space and finding the near side fullback up the field. Lexington's already doing a much better job finding their fullbacks in more advanced positions, a bit reminiscent of Guardiola's Barcelona teams which utilize Dani Alves' tendencies to run up and down the flank. Lexington's a little bit let down by that final pass, but it was a really nice build-up. Again, compactness in your defensive structure. Lexington's back four always seems like a completely different unit than their front six. I understand that you want to high press, but you can't sag your back line 15 yards off your center mids. And this is for two main reasons. First, it weakens your press. So in this case, Lexington's winger is the one that presses the Tormenta center back when he gets the ball, I guess trying to force the ball back in this direction. However, what it does is it opens this channel here directly to the winger. And because Lexington's line is so far back, the wingback is a step late in getting to the ball. The second reason is that if the opponent can beat your press, as in this case, they can just run at your back line and create dangerous attacks, as seen here. This is something that Lexington definitely needs to address if they want to see success in this league. So back to those passes kind of up the line. If you want to kind of be making these passes, it's best to do them quickly after switching the ball, as seen here, when the defense is not yet set up and still shifting over. Lexington likes attacking through their fullbacks and wingers, and getting them on the ball quickly after a switch is one way to do it, because you can kind of advance the ball quickly and find holes in a transitioning defense. It's when these passes are made when the defense is set and ready to pounce, those are the dangerous ones that I try to avoid.
Lexington is trying to build up this right side, but Tormenta does well in their defensive structure and is able to have numbers up, a 6v4 advantage. So, Lexington makes the right decision to switch the ball. Ideally, you'd want to play 22, who's kind of off screen here, because he's the most dangerous position right now in Lexington's structure. Why? Because he has all of this space to dribble into, he has all of these different options back here that are all 1v1 with their defenders. You'd want him to get the ball and kind of drive at the center backs. However, he is currently being covered by the shadow of number 8. So, Lexington decides to play through their striker. However, when the striker gets the ball, what can he do to find the switch? Make a turn? There's no one running off of him and providing options. If you listen to Xavi talk about his all-time great Barcelona teams and their philosophy, there's a concept that's drilled into the La Masia players about the third man. In these cases, when you're trying to break a press and find the players behind the press, you've got to first play that penetrating pass. But because most of the time these penetrating passes are received backs facing the goal, the ball has to be quickly played to that third man running off of that first man who is then facing goal. Thus, with the penetrating passes, it is those second balls off of the initial pass that are the most important and that can fully break the presses and develop these attacking opportunities. Here, you want to switch the ball to number 22, but the press is preventing that. So, you play the penetrating pass to your forward, and then have number 22 run off of him and be able to receive that ball facing the goal. In this case, number 22 is the third man. But what ends up happening is that as you fast forward, it seems like number 22 had instead dropped backwards to try to receive this ball here. And when the ball is played to the forward, he is not available for that second pass, causing Lexington to lose the ball. Part of the growth for a lot of players and teams is a deeper understanding of the game and being able to see those 1, 2, 3 passes ahead.
This is that third man philosophy in action. To break this line of press, 22 plays that penetrating pass to number 32, but he receives it back to the goal. So the ball is played back to number 22, who can receive it facing the goal and break through that line of pressure. I want to highlight these plays as well because, kids train these kinds of passing patterns all the time. At least I did them countless times as well growing up. However, at least I was never taught how to apply them to a game situations and why they work. So I hope to kind of spread these insights in case anyone watching is a young player trying to better understand the game.
Again, just some more nitpicking. As number 22 gets around number 6, he could get his head up and kind of see that the whole defense, particularly this pivot, shifting really hard towards the goal. I know he ended up winning a free kick in a dangerous spot, but it's also possible for him in this situation to kind of play this ball here across to number 8, which would also be a really dangerous ball because number 8 here is free in space and has a 3-on-2 on this backside. Regardless, very well done for number 22.
On this play, watch Lexington's winger, number 77 here. As the ball gets played to the Tormenta winger, I kind of wonder if Lexington's 77 could have angled his run a little bit differently. So instead of trying to cut off the line, he's able to come this way and kind of cut off that pass back and also cut off that dribble centrally. So Sean Dyche, who's currently the manager of Everton, who famously took Burnley to the Europa League, has talked extensively about the defensive principles that he employed with his 4-4-2s. Specifically that when an opponent plays the ball out wide, to trap them to that side and keep them from switching the ball. While Lexington may be employing different defensive tactics, allowing Tormenta to switch the ball here really opens up the defense and allows the creation of a decent opportunity. Thus, I wonder if 77 had approached Tormenta's wing at a different angle. If we look at it again, the wingback kind of has this line covered, and even if this ball is played, Lexington's center back is following the forward pretty well and can kind of cover that as well. So I wonder if 77 had, instead of going this way, had instead pressed that way and kind of forced Tormenta's winger to take a touch forward, if both him and the wingback could have trapped him on that sideline and won the ball back.
Two things on this play. First, Lexington's number 8 gets caught doing a little bit of ball watching. In his current position, he's not really doing anything. There's no player or passing lane that he's cutting off, and once that ball gets played between him and number 22, he realizes that he probably should have been there and tries to get back in front of the ball. I'd like for him to be kind of off 22's shoulder, maybe in like this position here. He should scan and kind of recognize where the weaknesses are in the Lexington defensive structure, which is where number 7 is, and try and defend that. And the second thing is, again, the cohesion between the back line and the midfield line. If you're going to play 2 center midfielders, if you press both of them up, you need some depth in your midfield, or else you're going to end up in a situation like this, where there's 10 yards of space between your center backs and your center mids, and then your opponent can kind of just sit people in here and get the ball in loads of space. Lexington needs some depth in their midfield, either one of their midfielders dropping back here, or allowing their defenders to kind of step up into these positions. One of these two needs to happen, because all of this space here in the center of Lexington's structure cannot happen.
This is another example of Lexington's lack of cohesion defensively, this time in the press. Pressing together as a team is critical. In this case, your winger and 2 strikers are pressing hard, so the rest of the team needs to follow, namely number 22 for Lexington. You see 18 pressing the center back, doing a good job of forcing him to face backwards towards his own goal. When you see your front man working that hard on the press, everyone else needs to work equally as hard behind him to capitalize on the pressure. I call it matching effort. Pressing always starts from the front, and your strikers should always be your trigger, with the rest of the team matching the effort of the striker. If the striker isn't pressing that hard, then you don't have to be flying around. But if your striker or front man is working hard and putting in effort, the rest of the team needs to match that effort and hit the spots that they need to be in. If that doesn't happen, then your pressure gets easily beaten, as you see here, often creating very dangerous positions for the pressing team. You either press together or you don't press at all. Having only some players pressing just exposes yourself, giving the opponent room to attack. On the other hand, this is a very well executed press. Number 8 might have been a little lucky not to have been beat, but does a good job of winning the ball back and creating offense. Lexington probably would wish they got a little bit more out of the attack here. In this case, if Nico Brown here, number 77, realizes that he can't get a pass in, which he probably can't because he's kind of surrounded by white shirts and his entry pass is kind of denied by these center backs here. He should realize that he's in kind of a bad spot, and trying to dribble forward still would have a low chance of success. Thus, he probably should kind of recycle the play here, like I highlighted earlier, and maintain possession and kind of switch the angle of attack. Here, I want to highlight a very good job done by Lexington's number 8 to slow down the Tormenta counter. They tried playing it fast, but number 8 was able to catch up and slow the play down. In these situations, number 8 did the right thing here. You're not necessarily trying to win the ball back, but instead slowing them down to give your players time to recover and track back. Getting beat just furthers their counterattack. Slowing them down is the best way to go here. Very well done. I know Lexington really likes a counterattack, but this Tormenta attack here could have ended much worse. If you see here, Lexington's winger, number 77, kind of gets caught ball watching, leaving 2 men running on the wingback, on the backside here. Lexington does get bailed out with a hopeful cross. However, this pass on the ground into this position here would be very dangerous, as Tormenta would be 4v4 in front of goal. On this play, Lexington's number 22 does a good job of winning the ball in the midfield and getting around the Tormenta midfielders. However, notice, as he's dribbling at the back line, he begins to dribble himself out wide. This is an issue I see with a lot of young players. Dribbling yourself out wide actually helps the defense, as the goal is in the middle of the field and dribbling yourself out wide just helps the defense siphon you away from the goal. He might be worried about the recovering Tormenta defender, but you're already a few steps ahead, and just keeping yourself between him and the ball is all you need to do. In this case, you can use number 18's run to your advantage. Number 18, your forward, is making this run here behind the Tormenta center back. So, if you're number 22, you want to dribble directly at the goal right at that center back. Make the defense feel uncomfortable and force the issue. By dribbling directly at that center back, you're forcing him to make a decision. Does he step forward to prevent you from taking space, but that opens up that through pass behind to number 18? Or does he just stay with 18 and continue conceding space? At a certain point, he'll have to step up, and you can make your decision then. That would be a very dangerous attack. However, as you see, just dribbling yourself out wide kind of allows the defense to funnel you that way, away from their goal, and the best you can get is kind of just a hopeful cross. To get their wingbacks more involved, Lexington began doing this rotation with their wingers and wingbacks. The winger checks back, and the wing back kind of flares towards the middle. This could be a decent alternative to the direct passes up the flanks, as it creates a bit of chaos in defenses and allows for overloads in these central areas. This is similar to kind of how Manchester City or Arteta's Arsenal use their inverted fullbacks like Zinchenko or Cancelo, allowing their creative players to join the attack and create overloads in middle areas. When you win the ball back, especially in these advanced areas, you want to attack quickly while the defense is still out of shape. Here, 22 wins the ball back but doesn't join the attack. 2 waits a second before getting on the ball, and by the time the ball is finally progressed forwards, Tormenta is already set up again. You can see Lexington's coach here kind of telling his team to kind of play quickly. When you have advantages and when you win the ball back in advanced areas, you want to press on those advantages quickly while the other team is disorganized before they can get set back up.
Again, another missed opportunity for Lexington to attack in transition. In this position, number 18 should be screaming for the ball. He receives the ball here and he's in so much space ready to attack a wide open Tormenta defense. When number 2 wins the ball, number 8 should be looking around and knowing that that pass inside here is that right pass. 18 is 1v1 to goal with the opposing center back, but number 8 just doesn't see him and is instead tunnel visioned on the one touch back to number 3. Again, general attacking principles. If you win the ball back in opponent territory, especially in the build-up, odds are that the opponent is out of shape and there are various dangerous passing lanes that are open. Number 8 should know that and should look up to find number 18 open in the middle of the field. Yes, center mids are generally taught to be safe and not lose the ball. However, understanding when and where advantages can be created and weaknesses in defense can occur is a part of understanding the game. You need to know when to take risks and when to play it safe. And that's something that, in my experience at least, wasn't really taught.
Again, another clip on defensive cohesion. As the ball gets swung to the Tormenta center back, look at how large that gap is between the Lexington front 5 and their back 4. There is legitimately maybe 30 yards of space in here where there's only one Lexington defender. Tormenta in this space has 3 whole dudes just sat there with not a single player remotely close to them. That's what allows passes like the one that is played, and the back line is too far to step into the checking man, and the midfielders obviously don't have eyes on the back of their heads. This is something that Lexington seriously needs to address, or they're going to keep getting picked apart in the midfield.
Watch this clip. I know Lexington really likes playing through their wings, but number 32 is in acres of space in the middle of the field. If he gets the ball here, at best it's a 1v1 against that center back, and at worst it's a 2v2 on the side here. Play the ball quickly to him, have 18 make this run around that center back, and have number 32 dribble at the goal. That's a very dangerous attack right there. Instead, the switch is played to number 2. And because everyone on the team is still on the other side of the field due to the build-up, he has no option except to play the ball backwards. So in my experience, a lot of young center mids feel like the longer the pass, the better. And everyone wants to be playing that switch or that long through pass just because it's open. Sometimes though, the best play is actually just that simple 5 yards pass right in front of you. And again, just play number 32. He's still wide freaking open in the middle of the field, ready to dribble straight at that back line. recycling the ball out to the wings is not going to give you a better position than if you just play it to him. You can tell he's a little bit frustrated for not getting the ball, which is totally understandable. And again, the 20 or 30 yard gap between the back line and the midfield forward line needs to be fixed. Look at where the back line is. Look at where the midfield line is. The Tormenta players are just sat in here, able to receive the ball and attack Lexington's back line with no one around him. Lexington can't do anything about it. They really need to find a way to address this. There's no reason this defender should be this far back. All of these backline players can all take like maybe 5 steps forward. This might be one of Lexington's biggest problems that I saw in this game. Now, Lexington on the counter, this ball here needs to be with number 32 4 touches earlier, way before the Tormenta center back can get to number 77 and force him to turn backwards. Also, just a thought, taking kind of Xavi's third man principles, it might be possible for number 77 to kind of play this ball into 32 and then make this run here to get the layoff. This would allow him to get the ball and attack Tormenta's near side center back here. 77 would be the third man as he's able to have the ball behind the line of pressure while facing the goal. Also, a well-timed run from 18 behind that center back, kind of in this direction, can be a promising chance as well. You see, to create the nice fluid offenses that we see at the top of the game, you need to be making these kinds of creative runs, both into space and that also create space in the place that you vacated. Soccer is a game entirely of space, and knowing how to best attack the spaces given to you is what separates this level of soccer from the top levels of the game, or even like the MLS. And then finally, just a quick note when you're trying to dribble, penetrate through defenses. Here, 32 does a good job playing off of the striker to receive the ball past the defensive line. He might have gotten a little scared, but he was through, and a quick touch directly towards goal here, instead of cutting back, would have led to a 1v1 with the keeper. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and let me know what games you would like for me to cover next.